Hi guys.
Let me sit down, bro.
That's what I did last time.
Yo,
You're busy
what
the
are you
hard
doing?
And we're back again for the second episode of Legally Speaking. For introductory purposes, my name is Kwenangwana.
My name is Muso Matala.
This one, my friend, is gonna just tell you all about sensitive matter.
Sensitive matter.
And then just give you the intro.
So we decided to tackle a very serious pandemic. So both episodes were essentially about pandemics. But this pandemic, the pandemic in question is GBV. So Gwen and I decided to, explore the various legal aspects and approaches that can be taken in relation to GBV. And I think I'll just let you take it from here.
Yeah. So gender-based violence, essentially, giving a definition, is any violence upon a person based on their gender. Right. So in South Africa, the majority of victims are known to be women and children. So taking that with regard, gender-based violence can happen in both ways, whether public or private. So it can go from instances from domestic situations, that can be from a relative that you don't know, let's say case maybe, to a stranger on the street that is, basically assaulting sexually, or whatever the case may be. So when we talk about gender-based violence, there are two legislative pieces that come into play, which is the Domestic Violence Act, known as DVA, and then there's the Sexual Offences and Related Matters Act. So the DVA, what it talks about is basically describing the types of crimes underneath that umbrella of domestic violence, or gender-based violence. So it can go from, as we spoke about, sexual assault, physical assault, harassment, intimidation, stalking, damage to property, those kind of things. And then the sexual offenses basically expands the sexual assault,
which would be rapes, compelled rape.
Exactly, rapes, child pornography. Also taking advantage of the disabilities, children with disabilities, people with disabilities,
grooming,
those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it basically gives a broader explanation to sexual assault, and includes obviously females, the disabled, and children and such. So those are the two legislations that are up there. There are other ones, but then these are the two most important when you're looking at gender-based violence. And when we looking at gender-based violence, there are certain reliefs or certain remedies in which you can look towards, which is obviously going for protection order.
Yeah.
That is like normally the first most common one, where people go to a police station, get a protection order against the person that violated them, open a criminal case, obviously at the police station as well. And then the last one is a civil claim. And the civil claim, I think you will take it off from there, where you talk about the kind of civil claim and what it institutes.
So a civil claim would be the alternative to a criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
Criminal prosecution occurs when you go report a crime, and then they arrest the person, they put them out on bail or whatever. Then there's a criminal trial, which is prosecuted by the state against the accused. But then there is another remedy called the civil claim, which happens between two private individuals, where one suffered some damage as a result of conduct that was wrongful.
Yeah, which is the act in which
yes,
was distracting a person.
Yes, conduct which was wrongful. That which was also the fault of the person who did this conduct, and there must be a causation between the conduct and the damages suffered by the person who suffered the damage. So in this case, what happens is that the victim will file a civil claim in the civil court.
Mm-hmm.
And what relief does the victim have in this regard? the relief is usually monetary.
Yeah.
So,
Which is different from a criminal case.
which is different from
these
a
are
criminal.
two different cases.
Yes.
One in the criminal court,
Yes.
one in the civil court.
Yes. So as a victim, you could sue somebody that you enjoyed GBV under the hands
the
of.
victim, basically.
Yes. The victim can claim money
Yeah.
for non-patrimonial loss, which would be emotional shock, which would be pain and suffering, which would be and also patrimonial loss, like future medical costs, future medical expenses, future psychological expenses. So the only thing that may hinder a victim's case in a civil claim is the damages part, because you have to have suffered a material damage.
Yeah.
You have to have suffered a material. So let's say
that's a problem that most courts face. To what extent?
To what extent?
Yeah. To what
did you
extent
suffer
is there
damage?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it needs to be material damage. So let's say Croc slaps me, you know, I could take him. So I could take him to prison. I could open a case against him, and he could get fined, or like he's not gonna go to prison for a long time.
Yeah.
So in fact, he's not gonna go to prison unless he keeps doing it. So similarly, if you look at the civil claim, if I can't really have a successful civil prosecution if he just slapped me, because the extent of the damage is going to be so trivial that it's the court body doesn't entertain what triviality.
Yeah. And,
so
and one thing as you could also mention should be the balance of probability.
Yeah. So I was getting there. But the nice thing about the civil court is that the likelihood of winning a case in the civil court is higher than in a criminal court, because in order for an accused person or a perpetrator to be found guilty in a criminal court, the state has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Whereas in a civil court, all you have to do is prove on a balance of probabilities. So that is why it is worthy to look at this other option, you know, because look, guys, we're facing it. I mean, GBV is a pandemic.
It's a pandemic,
and if it means these are the steps that should be taken, I feel like all possible legal avenues have to be explored.
Yeah, the criminal route often does not bear fruit. You know, for instance, the case just ends in the air. People, you know, buy cases in the criminal sense, and since you get so discouraged from that criminal perspective, you have to now fork out cash to pursue a civil case, while knowing or being discouraged from that criminal case that didn't bear fruit. So it becomes very difficult, you know.
But always remember that civil court, it's easier to prove a case.
Of course,
you have more chances of winning in civil court than it is in criminal court. So look, and look, sometimes when you're fighting a pandemic, whether you're discouraged or not, if you can fight something, you fight. You know,
fight it to the end.
You try to fight
and that's what you know should be done, and what people don't know. So, what do you think the solution, you know, regarding this whole pandemic?
I think people must just keep watching Legally Speaking and learn stuff.
And learn stuff. And like
learn
this
stuff.
This is a very informative platform, I guess.
This is why we started this.
Yeah,
This is why we're doing this, guys, to give you this new information. Like, oh, what? You know? And also, guys, we are lawyers. We are lawyers. We actually brilliant lawyers, if I may say so myself. Contact us, engage.legallySpeaking@gmail.com. Should you have any legal queries,
Yeah,
or should you need any legal help?
Yeah, if it's a sensitive matter which you can't
Yes.
go and comment on YouTube or
Yeah.
Instagram or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, you can send us a DM on Instagram
Directly,
or
yes.
the
Or-
Gmail account in which
yes,
and
and
also
also
just spoke about right now.
and comment, like, I forgot, subscribe.
How can you forget the bell? Yeah, guys. No, so yeah, like as you said, this is very informative. If you guys have anything else you guys want us to, you know, touch upon, talk about, unpack, let us know. We'll do it for you. That's fine.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.